Welcome to Tech Innovations with Dr. T. Today we have a fascinating session that touches on the intersection of AI and religion. Joining us is Dr. Delio, a Franciscan Sister of Washington, D.C., and the Josephine Connelly Endowed Chair in Theology at Villanova University. Dr. Delio has an impressive background with 2 doctorate degrees, one in pharmacology and another one in historical theology. She is an award-winning author, known for her works on evolution, artificial intelligence, consciousness, quantum reality, and the integration of science and religion. Her research in science has been influenced by the Jesuit scientist Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who devoted his spiritual writing in bridging Christianity and evolution. Her past career and academic journey also include teaching science and religion at Trinity College, being a visiting professor and director of Catholic Studies at Georgetown University. Dr. Delio, welcome and thank you for accepting my invitation.
Yeah, thanks, Emmanuel. It's really nice to be here and talk with you about AI.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. So first, I want to start with this book of yours, my favorite. The book, again, is titled Re-Enchanting the Earth, Why AI Needs Religion. So it's interesting to me because I found the book, I would say, particularly interesting, especially given the focus on how AI and religion can really help in indicating the direction for humanity towards that humanity evolution towards God.
Yeah.
From the book, I learned about the concept of religion, how religion, for example, can orient AI. And I'm not sure exactly how you came about that, but can you elaborate a little bit more why you came about with this?
No, it's a great question. And it's true, like very few people would think artificial intelligence and religion would have anything in common with each other. So the key is this person, Teilhard de Chardin, right? So he was a Jesuit scientist. He was a paleontologist. So he's a scientist. So he's really interested in science. He's not a theologian or a philosopher. And it's how he begins to bring, he's a Jesuit priest. So it's how he brings his faith, his belief that there's a power of life, God, at work in this world of evolution, and how he brings those things together. So he sees that evolution is a process of unfolding life, and it's moving towards greater complexity. And so he begins to ask, well, this term God can, sometimes we think God is like this big being in the sky,
yes,
watching over us, and that's the very thing he said God is not, right? So God is not like, the Matrix or something, like some big powerful force is going to, tell us what to do. He said God is more like a deep presence, like a deep presence. We can think of it as the energy of love, an energy that's unitive, that's personal, that is constantly, it's beyond our grasp, and yet it keeps moving things along. And so he sees this power of love or life operative within nature. And he says, as nature unfolds, this question or this reality of God begins to emerge. As we come into a higher consciousness, we become aware of something that's more than ourselves, And basically, it's about, he says, evolution is the rise of thought. Even if you bracket the whole question of religion, evolution itself gives rise to thinking individuals like Homo sapiens sapiens, like we know that we know. And so he begins to pull these things together in his essays called The Future of Man. And he sees that evolution is going, it has a shape to it. It keeps increasing in complexity. So we're not just randomly, generating information. We're generating information that actually is unifying us, which is very interesting in itself. We can now connect, for example, between North Carolina and Washington, D.C. at the touch of a button. We can, connect with China and Russia and, the Middle East within milliseconds, just by turning on your computer. And so technology is doing something for human thought. And he says that kind of unity is consonant with the whole pattern of evolution, which he says that increasing wholeness is what God is about. So God is, in a sense, the name of increasing wholeness in evolution, a wholeness that includes a personal element. It includes the unity of love, and includes the desire for more life. And all of these things. And he said, computer technology, he thought it was the best thing he ever discovered.
Wow.
So
that's interesting.
In his future man, he said, wow, this is amazing. These computers can link minds. And that's what he said. We can begin to link minds in a way that builds up the human community into a more unified planetary community. So he kind of anticipated the internet without ever knowing the internet, and he called it, kind of alluded to the global brain, that we can build a global brain with computers, which is what we're seeing today, right? We have a new type of thinking going on with computer life. And he sees that as consonant with what religion's about. Religion is really the energy that is to give us a zest for life, that we desire to be bound together to something more than ourselves, to get out of our little individual, cells, and become something more in relation to others, to the earth, to other people, and to the wholeness of life itself, which is God. So in his view, he coined the term the noosphere. So he says, evolution is moving from cosmogenesis, or cosmological life, to biogenesis, biological life, and now we're on a new level of of evolution. He calls the level of mind, or the noosphere. Yeah. So AI is actually our friend, barring all the hype around it, and the so-called imminent dangers of AI. And I know we'll talk about that in a minute. But technology is what thinking nature does. It has been doing it for eons, right? Like ever since the first cells formed, there's always been the ability of nature to harness tools and to create ways to optimize life. And that's what technology does. It's the technate, the creative aspect of nature, to harness life for more life, to advance life. And so Teilhard thought that's exactly what the computer is doing for us. It's helping us to get beyond our individual little particles of cells and moving us to something so much more than our little cells, to something that he called the hyper-personal person.
Wow, that's an interesting insight. It's really interesting because this is a concept that it's coming from over a century ago. But we are seeing it today, for example, being manifested in something one maybe could not envisage to see something like that happening centuries down the road. So Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, he has an incredible work. After I first read your work over 2 years ago, that's when I learned about him. And ever since, I've been reading some of his work, and hopefully I can find more and read some more of his work.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And actually scientists today are picking up on Teilhard's writings on the noosphere. For example, I was part of a conference last November in Berkeley, California, on human energy and the future of collective consciousness. Like, where are we going, and where are we going with artificial general intelligence? And patterns, mathematical modeling of information shows that there is a formative unity now taking place in evolution with AI and AGI, in more specifically. So scientists were saying, yeah, Teilhard had some good ideas here. That
yes, yeah.
I think a lot of people think like AI is out to get us. Like we're developing a Frankenstein. We're going to become extinct, and the robots are going to rise up and they're going to rebel against us. And it's like, well, I think we should come back from all that hype.
Exactly. I think it's yes, AI has its issues, some ethical concerns, copyright, but I don't think it has gotten to a point where robots are going to come and then take control over the world, and then now having us as their minions controlling us. So when it comes to AI, so the concept of human bias is something that we deal with every day, whether it's conscious or unconscious. I know you have a lot of work also around consciousness. And so I know AI was born in part as a strategy to address human bias while performing some of the tasks that we normally would do. And as we know today, AI is not actually free from bias because it's to some degree a reflection of who we are. And so given the role of social power, for example, in our world, and the importance of, say, cybernetics, where we have feedback loops that are very critical for what we do. So what I have used on maybe, I would say, AI regulations and say maybe who should lead the effort if regulation, for example, is needed?
No, that's a great question. You're right. I mean, what AI can do, unregulated, is reinforce our biases. So you're right. So can AI, for example, reinforce, for example, racial opposition or religious opposition or gender opposition, because we don't like certain people. So AI, I always worry because we tend to anthropomorphize AI.
Yes.
Take on its own human personality and character. But you're absolutely right. We're creating the AI. So it's the biases we put into our algorithms and our codes, right? And this is not, who regulates that? That's the big question, right? Who is monitoring, like the people at Google or Microsoft, in writing these that we can develop a more unified planetary community of shared life and shared values. And here's where I think AI, first of all, we keep treating it like the telephone. Oh, it's just something that's useful for us. But it's much more than that, right?
Yes.
It's an extension of our minds now in an artificial medium. Does AI have consciousness? Not in and of itself, in the way that human person has consciousness. It's literally, it's in bits. It's it's code. So it's not conscious, but it is an extension of human consciousness. It does mirror how we're thinking about things, and that's what's really, really both important and very revealing. It's how we're thinking about ourselves, our planet, what we're about, and that's where I see the biases entering in. We can't get over whatever it is within us that's divided or, in opposition. And here's where I think that bad religion has given rise to unhealthy biases. If we think like God's in the sky and God's going to take care of us and God's white and God's male and God's all this kind of stuff, we're gonna develop code with those biases in mind.
Exactly.
Implicit, but they're there. They're just kind of implicitly governing how we think about things. And that's why I think the way to maybe redial AI, recode it in a way that is more democratic, more shared life is, it's not AI. We need a religious revolution, quite honestly. We need to get God out of the sky, and we need to kind of deflate this God of power and relocate this God of power within us. We have an immense capacity as humans to create, to imagine, to bring into existence what doesn't yet exist. And that's something like our own godly dimension of life. Like if we say we're image of God, well, that's kind of what it kind of looks like, And therefore, there's a whole school of thought that says God needs humans to be really fully what God can be, especially if we think of God as love. So I think the problem of reinforced biases with AI is a problem that I locate in bad religion or old religion or religion that's stuck in the sky, stuck on whiteness, maleness, oldness, and nothing changes, in that religion. God created us. God will take care of us. God loves us. And if you sin, you're going to go to hell and all this kind of, I'm like, that is just that is artificial.
So I guess, so does that boil down to the concept of resistance to change, and maybe a situation where people don't want to change, we just want to stick with what we have? because this is how we did things 100 years ago, and we don't want to adapt to new technologies or use that or leverage that for our good.
That's exactly right. We are resistant to change. And therefore, even though we emerge by the process of evolution, we resist evolution. We don't want to change. We don't want to become something more together or something more complexified. So the very process that has given birth to us is resented by us or resisted by us. And so we're in this conflicted state, in my view.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're a very conflicted species. And I always say, if we kind of put the human person on the side, the rest of nature will be fine,
Yeah. Interesting points. Thanks a lot for pointing that out. So talking about evolution that you brought it up. So a lot of your research also explores divine action in a world of, I would say, chaos, right? And the emergence of God in evolution. And so do you think, or how do you see artificial intelligence contributing to or maybe challenging our understanding of these concepts of evolution and God?
Yeah. Well, I would just kind of bracket, we just put the word God on the side and even artificial intelligence and just look at nature. You look at nature over 4.2 billion years of biological life. That is an incredibly long time.
Yes.
And so it's pretty fantastic the way that bacteria, single cells, multicellular life begins to form in greater unities, in greater differentiation, greater diversity. And then we get, the movement into plant life, animal life, the way nature selects out certain traits for the adaptation for its environment, basically. So basically, evolution is about life seeks more life. That's the bottom line. That's what I think life is about in the universe. It's really about more life. And all along the way, technology is built into nature. Beavers build dams, so that they don't ants build anthills. You see birds building nests, little straw nests to store their young. Nature just has the way, this implicit, and it could be a kind of consciousness in nature, a mindfulness in nature, just to know, what to do to secure its young, to care for its family, its tribe, to gather food. So all of these principles are going on way, way before we arrive on the scene. And then we come along. And then we're not just, we're coming out of mammalian life. I mean, we don't just drop down here from like a helicopter.
Yeah.
Like from outer space, or maybe we do, I don't know. But we're coming out of a long history, and we know that our Homo sapien species began in Africa. That's the best of archaeologists, the best what anthropology tells us. Rich civilizations of culture, of tool making, of primitive forms of writing, that were being expressed. And over time, the way technology has always been the prime mover of evolution.
Exactly.
Tools, and the tools create us over and over. We build roads, we meet other people, and then we change. And so change is built into the whole process of evolving biological life. So I don't think AI, quite honestly, I don't think technology, I don't even think computer technology is so outlandish or so out there. I think it's a natural development of evolution. It's exactly what we would expect, right? I mean,
yes.
Have eyeglasses to see, we have telephones to hear,
exactly,
automobiles to travel. Why not extend the mind? That would be like the last frontier,
Yeah, basically, this is what you say here is just, I think, for me, boils down to appreciation of technology and using it for the good of humanity. This is really spot on.
That's exactly what it is. And so all the hype, the hype around it, I'm not discrediting that. We need to be careful and cautious, but the cautiousness is about us. It's not about the technology.
Exactly.
The creators of that technology. That's really who we have to really begin to, be careful about.
Yeah, that's interesting. So talking about consciousness again, so I want to go back to the work of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who talked about the concept of the omega point, envisioning maybe a future where human consciousness can evolve, say, towards a final point of, say, unification with the divine. Today we have AI. So do you think maybe does generative AI have, say, a role to play, especially given the huge investment by companies like OpenAI and development of AGI, for example, that may or may not, they talk about sentient applications down the road. Do you think that has a role to play?
Yeah, I do. And I think they do, actually. I think AGI is definitely, well, it's here already, and it's the next stage of extending the human mind, even beyond the biological mind. So that's what we're seeing now, is that we're already exceeding the biological mind. This is what both, it allures us and it frightens us at the same time.
Yes, scary sometimes.
It is, because part of the problem is we don't have other value systems at play here. We don't, for example, have a philosophy adequate to artificial intelligence. We don't have a theology or an understanding of what is religion within the world, even in terms of culture, sociology. So education, we still educate. Education is slowly adapting to an AI world, but it's still pretty Newtonian in its structure. So our systems are very slow to adapt to a rapidly advancing AI world, and we're caught right in the middle. That's why we feel the fear and the lure of technology. But it will continue. It's not a matter, like, it's not going to slow down. It's not going to wait for us to, wait for the humans until they get their act together. It is rather.
Is it like humans, we are not comfortable with speed? Like, we want to take it like slowly, gradually. If it's so slow, if the adoption and integration is slow in society, do you think we're gonna accept that a lot more easier than we do right now?
Well, I think the speed is a real problem for us right now. I think our brains are overloaded. There's too much information coming in. It's the same 3-pound brain we had 3,000 years ago. So, the brain really hasn't changed that much, but the amount of information has just exploded. And so our brains are taxed. We're exhausted most of the time. We don't know how to make sense of the multiple fields of information coming in. And that's why exporting the brain onto a device is the only thing we can do at this point. But I do think we need principles. For example, I think things like solitude, walking in nature, just days off, just like unplugging for a while, kind of cyber Sabbaths type thing. Slowing down. I mean, making the choice ourselves to slow down and just sort of attend and integrate what's already within us. And not lose, I would say, sort of the center of our lives. Like, what is it that gets me up in the morning? Not to lose what we're deeply concerned about, what drives us. Because I think AI can just pull us into its orbit, and we're sort of like, we're like paper that's floating in the air. We're all over the place. And we can't make decisions anymore. And we're so dependent on AI now for everything. So AI is, in a sense, running us, and we're not steering AI. AI is steering us, and that's part of the problem. And we get the reins here, of where we're going.
Okay. Yeah, so that takes me back to what we've talked already about speed, for example, and some of the challenges that comes along. So religion, for example, we know is one of those things in life that can be slow to evolve or change or to adapt to new changes. So how do you think AI, maybe AI challenges or maybe can complement traditional religious views as we continue to adopt AI, especially given your work on consciousness that you've done over the years?
Yeah, well, it's huge because honestly, I think our metaphysics, our philosophical understandings of God and world need to change. They're old, they're not wrong. They're just old. They're based on Aristotle and Plato. While they were really smart dudes, they were really smart, but they're also dead for many years now. And we can't bring in a new philosophy. We need new philosophy, a new way to think about what this word God means for us. What's taking place when we say that word God? What kind of, how does that word, how does it affect our lives for better or worse? And so I think, that would be one thing. Second is Teilhard was a panpsychist. So following the insights of certainly the Copenhagen School of Quantum Physics, there is a fundamental role for mind in the determination of matter. And so mind and matter now are two aspects of the one whole, or the same reality. And that is not where religion is. It's all over. Religion's sort of all over the place. Your mind has to be on God, and forget the body and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, that's not going to work. So mind and matter had to be brought into a new reality, and that's what Taylor was trying to do. And this term omega is really about a complexified reality where mind and matter are unified. In this kind of holism, he saw it like a whole. And we're never anything other than our minds. We're never anything other than our bodies, quite honestly. So religion sort of separated these out, and we need to bring them back together.
This is an interesting insight. So as we move forward here, I want to wrap it up here very soon, because I really appreciate your time, and I want to be respectful for your time. So as we move forward, say with AI and maybe other technological advancements, what role do you see for interdisciplinary dialogue between, say, we have scientists, we have theologians, we have governments, you have industry leaders, you have social media figures, and what role do you see they play, especially in light of your work on metaphysics, the metaphysics of love, as maybe, say, a bridge between science and religion?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And I do think I would like to see higher education today in terms of complexity, that we bring all of our questions, say, what is the human person? Bring in scientists, bring in engineers, bring in theologians and philosophers into the same question, so that we begin to understand what we are in this unfolding world, in the many dimensions of life that are impacting us. Love, and of course, Teilhard did not mean, when he spoke about love, it was not an emotional type of love. He meant there's a unitive nature to nature. It's unitive, it's personal, and it's relational, and it's communicative. Nature keeps communicating something of itself to something beyond itself. And therefore, love as this unitive nature is creative. As something unites, something new forms. And as something new forms, it's more than what the elements of union are. And that is very true of life in this universe. It is creative, unitive, creative, and transcendent. But we don't have that. Honestly, I find education today backwards, in many ways. And I think the resistance to change is because educational systems are having a hard time changing themselves to adapt to this rapidly advancing world. Neither science or religion is the problem in themselves. They're tremendous disciplines. We need science, and we need something of like a religious pole or a dimension, because science can tell us how things work. But religion gives us questions of ultimate meaning and concern, like why do we get up at all in a world where robots may be taking us over? And so we need these questions to be brought into the same conversation. We need these two disciplines to be in constant dialogue, finding areas that they share, where they each distinguish, what they each contribute to the overall welfare of the human person. So I see the human person sort of like a hologram in evolution. We're holographic. Our minds are, they're being shaped by many different fields of knowledge. But our problem right now is, how do we integrate these fields of knowledge into a unified center, into unified meaning for what we are about, so that we advance to something that's more meaningful, more whole, and therefore more in love, if we can use that language.
Wow, this is amazing. Dr. Delio, thanks a lot for so much for sharing your thoughts and your insight with me here today. You're welcome. I would say it's a beacon of how we can maybe thoughtfully and ethically navigate the intersections between science, AI, and religion. This is really insightful. And I'm so grateful we were able to meet today and talk about some of these things.
Great. I'm happy to share with you. I hope you carry on the good work you're doing. It's really important.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for taking the time to watch today's session. Please do me a favor to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.